An investigation by attorneys general from Louisiana and Missouri revealed what they call, quote, an incestuous relationship between the White House and big tech companies working together to stifle the freedom of speech. Tech oversight from the White House was so exhaustive that they even asked Instagram to ban a Dr. Fauci parody account. Of course, the Meta-owned Instagram immediately complied. Joining me now to discuss all of it and the collusion between the White House and big tech is Louisiana Solicitor General Liz Murrill. Solicitor General Murrill, welcome to Washington Watch.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, quickly, tell us what your investigation found.
Well, we launched this lawsuit with some examples of the censoring of speech by big tech and with evidence that was coming from pressure from the government. But now that we've been able to engage in some expedited discovery that was permitted by the judge in the case, we have found a whole lot more examples of it. We've got a long list of government officials, basically, who are partnering with big tech to censor speech. And now the judge is actually allowing us to expand the lawsuit to add more agencies, including the FBI.
Tell us a bit about this. Is this what you're discovering, this collusion? Is this starting with the big tech companies, or is the White House, is the Biden administration initiating these communications and telling people this is what we need you to do?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. Like what we have seen in the communications that they've produced so far, which is certainly not exhaustive. We're not anywhere near being done with collecting the information that we've asked for in this lawsuit. But what we are seeing is that this was initiated by the government, and that the government has engaged with these companies and put pressure on them to remove content. Now, what we're also seeing is that these companies are very cooperative about doing it. So, where that line begins and ends is sometimes hard to tell when they are so cozy together.
Now, that's exactly what we're all kind of curious about. Of course, the White House has acknowledged the fact that there are communications, that there is some kind of a relationship. A White House spokeswoman, Karine Jean-Pierre, had this to say about the relationship that they have with these social media companies. Let's play clip 4.
What about if those communications are still happening? Are there frequent contacts between the administration and social media companies?
So I'll say this, as we have said before, there has been ongoing work dating to the Trump administration to provide accurate COVID information where folks get their news.
Solicitor General Murrill, do you think that's a fair characterization, that this is just about making sure the public has accurate information?
Well, I think it's, there's a lot wrapped up in what the government has decided is accurate information or not. I mean, what they're doing is censoring people's speech when they don't agree with what they're saying. And the scope of that, the blocking of people's content is only growing larger and larger with the information that we've been able to uncover. So, I think she is being, I guess, pretty honest in saying we're doing it, we're still doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. And I just think that the tell is in when she says we are trying to make sure that people have accurate information. Well, last time I checked, the government was not necessarily, they weren't the monitors of our speech on public media and deciding whether they agree or disagree with what we're saying. People can say things that are inaccurate, and it's still protected by the First Amendment. So what we see in the collusion between these companies and the government is now the companies are effectively becoming agents of the government. They're doing whatever the government tells them to do.
And let's drill down on that for a moment, because these tech companies have long acknowledged the fact that they are censoring certain perspectives. And the defense has always been, we are private companies. We can do whatever we want. The government can't tell. The First Amendment does not restrain private companies. You don't have free speech on someone else's private platform. Does that analysis change at all if it turns out that the White House or that the government is actually directing the decisions of these private companies?
Well, it certainly does. I mean, if the government is directing these companies, and I think it changes no matter what. I mean, either they are agents of the government or the government is pressuring them to act in a way that violates people's First Amendment rights. Either way, it is a huge problem for the government to be pressuring these companies or the companies to be acting collusively with them to censor people's speech as an agent of the government. We also, they have long also taken the position that they are not editors, that they get the Section 230 exemption under the Communications Act because they claim not to be editors. Well, what do we find? We find that they, in fact, are editors. They heavily edit what people say and what people put out on their platforms. So they could lose their Section 230 exemption as well and be treated more like newspapers or people who do edit content and radio stations.
It seems beyond dispute at this point that they are editing content in so many ways. And we saw the conversations that Mark Zuckerberg was having with Joe Rogan recently, and where he acknowledged that these communications with the federal government were happening and they were, in fact, throttling the information people received based on what they were told. And Solicitor General Murrill, are you more concerned with the fact that the government would try to influence what these companies do, or that these companies would do what the government tells them to do?
Look, I think the latter is more concerning, frankly. I mean, it's when they are cooperatively allowing themselves to be co-opted by the government, and the government is able to capture corporate America and use them to affect policies that they could not implement on their own, then it is a huge problem. And, I do hope that people are paying attention and watching what's happening with corporate America, because we see a very, very cozy relationship with the federal government that is permitting policies that the government can enact to be carried out under the auspices or under the umbrella of a private organization claiming to be acting privately.
Solicitor General Louisiana, Liz Murrill, thanks for your time today. I know we will continue this conversation. We look forward to doing that again, but thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.